Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the May 1st meeting of the Lower Providence Township Board of Supervisors. If you could please all rise and join the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll start with the roll call for this evening.
Okay. Mrs. Ekman.
I'm here.
Mr. Sergini.
Here.
Mr. Duffy.
Here.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Mrs. Zimmerman.
Here. Okay, I have one announcement that we held an executive session this evening before our meeting began. And we also, I think I failed to announce that we had an executive session before our April 16th meeting, and we discussed legal and personnel issues. Okay, so we'll begin with the first item on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. Okay, could I have someone entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any questions?
I wasn't here for the meeting, so my vote on the minutes will be...
Okay. I do have a question, and Tim, I'm glad you're here, our engineer. Just to clarify, so there, item 1B, number 2, escrow release for 1000 Adams Avenue. So in our packet, it says to release it, that they're done with their maintenance and installation. Is that?
Ms. Second, that is correct. That project had been completed a couple years ago, and the project was in its maintenance period. And that maintenance period was due to come to closure. So our team went out, took a look at what was left to do, any damage or defects that may have occurred during that period, identified those items. The folks who own 1000 Adams Avenue went out, did the repairs, and so they are then entitled to, I guess, the release of that obligation.
Okay, thank you. Because I know they're doing some current work, so this is not...
Yeah, that would be next door at 900 Adams Avenue, correct.
Okay. All right, thank you for that clarification. All right. Do you have any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, and we have one abstention from the minutes. Okay, next up on our agenda, big evening. We have a presentation to Police Chief Francis Carroll in recognition of 30 years of service to Lower Providence Township. Some great photos. All right, Vice Chairman Sorgini's going to help me because this is a little heavy. So. We think you're going to need a reinforced shelf for that award, but this is a great honor. Okay, Francis L. Carroll, Chief of Police, 30-year service anniversary. Francis L. Bud Carroll was sworn in as a police officer with Lower Providence Township on March 26, 1984. He started his law enforcement career as a seasonal patrolman in Sea Isle City, New Jersey, in the summers of 1976 and 77. He was hired by the Bridgeport Police Department in January of 1978 and attended the Pennsylvania State Police Academy Southeastern Training Center. In April of 1979, he was appointed as police officer in West Norton Township, where he worked in the patrol division, the detective division, as well as the traffic safety unit until his appointment in Lower Providence Township. Bud was assigned to the detective division in May of 1984. He was promoted to patrol sergeant in September of 1991 and was named Detective Sergeant in May of 1994. He was promoted to lieutenant in July of 1998, and he was appointed to Chief of Police in September of 2000. He received his Bachelor's of Science degree in Sociology in 1977 from St. Joseph's College, and his Master's of Science degree in Criminal Justice Administration in 1984 from Westchester University. He attended the Pennsylvania State University Police Supervisor and Training Program, POSIT, the Pennsylvania State University Police Executive Development Program, POLEX, and the Command Institute for Police Executives. The Law Enforcement Executive Development Seminar leads at the Woodrow Wilson School of Public Policy at Princeton University, and is a graduate of the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. Bud and his wife Sheila are both the parents of Bryn, a 3-year medical student at Johns Hopkins University of Medicine, and Mara, a junior at the University of Delaware. Quite a lot of good work there, Bud.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Did you want to say something, Jason?
Sure.
I've had the good fortune to come to know Chief Carroll over many years as a friend of Lower Providence, and the Chief's dedication to the men and women on his staff and to the residents of Lower Providence knows no limits, and I've been able to see that to the point where he willingly puts his life on the line day after day, and he'll do whatever needs to be done to make things right. He's a good man, and I think that says the most about him, that he's a good man. I have it on good authority because I work with somebody who went to school with Bud, and she says that the good man that I know today was the same good man those many years ago in high school. And it's truly an honor to be part of the same organization that you are. And on behalf of all the board and the residents of Lower Providence, we thank you. Thanks, Chief.
You didn't bring the family?
No,
No?
my wife's in Florida.
Oh, Stan's the family. Okay, is that your wife, your second wife?
Yeah, might as well be.
You're a little red, Lieutenant. I just wanted to add, probably not a lot of people in the township are aware of Bud's contribution to Montgomery County law enforcement and the training that he does, and his knowledge has been extended to so many people that his legacy will surely be carried on for, gosh, many, many, many years to come. Thank you, Bud. We appreciate that.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the kind words. First of all, when you hit a milestone, any milestone, you have an opportunity to reflect. And while I was reflecting, the conclusion that I reached was that I'm a pretty lucky guy. I was pretty lucky when, as a young patrolman in West Norton Township, I was patrolling the day camp, and the director of the day camp, Sheila O'Hara, who had been a year ahead of me in high school, walked in front of the police car, and we struck up a conversation. And for the last 35 years, she's been the love of my life, and so I was pretty lucky. We're pretty lucky in that we have the two most beautiful, talented, kind daughters that parents could ever want, and I'm just so proud of them. I'm lucky because I've worked for 2 police chiefs here in Lower Providence Township, Tom Rogers, who wouldn't take no for an answer twice. I said no to him once, and I'm very, very glad that I said yes to him the second time. And Ed McDade. Both Tom and Ed set the standards for law enforcement in Lower Providence Township, and they're very, very high standards. I've been lucky to work for boards of supervisors over my 30 years here that get it, that get public safety and support public safety and provide us, to the extent that they can, the resources that we need to protect the residents of Lower Providence Township. I've been lucky in that I have great staff here in the township. And finally, I've been very, very lucky to work with, and I'm privileged to work with, the police officers of the Lower Providence Township Police Department. That I get to work with people, and I think that the people that are here tonight and other people who sent me messages that they couldn't be here tonight, I think their presence and their messages speak more to their character than to anything else. So I'm very them every day. I'm privileged to be the police chief in Lower Providence Township, and I assure you that you'll get 110% until December 31st, 2015. Okay. Again, thank you very much for the presentation. I'll need a hand truck to get that out of here. And again, thank you for your support over the years, and I look forward to the future. As I've said before, it's a very, very bright future. We have very, very talented, very, very committed, and the work that they do on a daily basis pleases me. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Next item on our agenda is number 3, new business. And this is an adoption of resolution recognizing the week of May 11th through the 17th as Police Week in Lower Providence Township. Very appropriate. Patrick, do you mind reading that resolution? Thank you.
This is resolution number 14 of 2014. It's a resolution proclaiming the week of May 11th through 17th, 2014 to be Police Week in Lower Providence Township. The resolution reads as, whereas there are approximately 900,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Lower Providence Township Police Department, and whereas nearly 60,000 assaults against law enforcement officers are reported each year, resulting in approximately 16,000 injuries, and whereas since the first recorded death in 1791, almost 20,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty, and whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., and whereas 286 new names of fallen heroes are being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring alone, including 100 officers killed in 2013 and 186 officers killed in the previous years. whereas the service and sacrifice of all officers killed in the line of duty, including 111 officers killed in 2013, will be honored during the National Law Enforcement Officer Memorial Fund's 26th Annual Candlelight Vigil on the evening of May 13, 2014. And whereas the Candlelight Vigil is part of the National Police Week, which takes place this year, May 11th through 17th, and May 15th is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, and U.S. flags should be flown at half-staff. Therefore, be it resolved that Lower Providence Township formally designates May 11th through 17th of 2014 as Police Week in Lower Providence Township and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in the communities across the nation. Adopted this first day of May 2014.
Okay. Could I have a motion to adopt that resolution recognizing May 11th through the 17th as Police Week in Lower Providence Township?
I would make that motion.
Have that motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Item 3B, adoption of resolution recognizing the week of May 18th through the 24th as Public Works Week in Lower Providence Township.
Madam Chairwoman, this is a resolution proclaiming the week of May 18th through the 24th, 2014 to be Public Works Week in Lower Providence. Whereas National Public Works Week was established in 1960 to recognize the men and women who work in the public works field, and Lower Providence Township wishes to join municipalities across the nation in raising awareness of the responsibilities of the Public Works Department. And whereas these individuals are professional drivers, equipment operators, and workers who serve the public good every day with quiet dedication, maintaining Lower Providence Township's vehicles, equipment, and buildings, and ensuring the safety of its citizens by completing roadway and storm inlet maintenance, snow removal, and sign traffic signal maintenance. And whereas the Lower Providence Township Public Works Department, with the support of the Board of Supervisors, keeps abreast of technologies and innovations to help the department run safely, effectively, and efficiently. Therefore, the Board of Supervisors of Lower Providence Township proclaims May 18th through the 24th, 2014 to be Public Works Week in Lower Providence Township and pays tribute to these workers for improving the quality of life for township residents today and in the future. Adopted this first day of May 2014. I think we may have a typo on the official resolution.
We got that.
Good ad lib.
Yes.
Excellent ad lib.
Thank you.
Okay. So now that we have that resolution, can I have a motion to adopt the resolution recognizing the week of May 18th through the 24th as Public Works Week in Lower Providence Township?
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? The ayes have it. Okay, item 3C, authorization to execute a contract for canine purchase and handler training. And Bud, you're going to give us the background on that, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. We've been fortunate enough to receive $11,500 from the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office, which is earmarked for the procurement and training of a police canine with the specialty training in narcotics. We're respectfully requesting authorization from the board to execute the agreement with Progressive Canine for the procurement and the training of the canine team.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize this contract for canine purchase.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I would second.
A motion and a second. Do you have any questions from the board?
No questions, but just, Chief, to say that this is not only a phenomenal program, but to be able to secure the funding in addition to that just is a wonderful thing. So thank you very much.
And I have to give a lot of credit in this regard to Lieutenant Stan Turtle, who was instrumental in doing the background and securing the funding. And I had mentioned it in my memo to the board, but hopefully within the next 2 months we'll receive confirmation as far as a replacement for the explosives dog. Again, with no township funds being expended.
Please thank Lieutenant Turtle, and the same way that we welcome all of our new officers when the new dogs come on board, we'd love to see them at a meeting.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Bring treats.
Chief Carroll, if I may, who is the officer that will be being trained to handle the canine officer?
We're still in the process, Mr. Duffy, of selecting the officers and screening the officers. We want to be very, very thorough because of the nature of the assignment and the sort of the ancillary issues. The dogs live with the families, so we actually do home visits and meet with the spouses, and we want to make sure that we do our due diligence before we make the actual assignment. We did have a number of officers that expressed an interest, and we went through an interview process, and we're still within the screening process at this point. But it's a very, very large commitment and a very large investment, so we want to make sure that we're very judicious in making a selection. We anticipate that this team would begin their training in probably September of this year, which is the next available class being offered by Progressive.
And when do you think that the team would be on active duty here in the township?
It'll probably be December or so, probably towards the end of the year.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carried. Okay, item 3D, discussion and consideration of a request from the Audubon Oaks Lions Club for a waiver of a yard sale permit fee. Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. The Audubon Oaks Lions Club has asked us for a waiver of their yard sale permit fee. It's a sale that is scheduled for this weekend. It's a $15 fee that, if the board was so to grant, would be waived.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Okay. Would anyone like to entertain a motion to waive the yard sale permit fee for the...
I'll make a motion to waive the yard sale permit fee.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions from board members? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay, moving on. Item 3E, we'll receive an update on our pension services RFP, request for proposal from Jerry.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Back in February, the board authorized staff to proceed with a request for proposals for pension professional services, and at that time they adopted 2 resolutions to set the foundation for doing so. With that approved, we went out for proposals, and 13 firms responded by the March 15th deadline. All members of the 2 pension committees were provided with copies of each firm's proposals for their review and comment. Ultimately, the township manager had conducted an extensive review of the firm's proposals as well as their fee structure, their performance, and then when the committees met, we just jointly decided on 5 firms to bring in for interviews on April 10th. We proceeded. Those 5 firms were Burnwell, INR, PNC, UBS, and Wells Fargo. From those 5, we selected 2 to bring back in for an in-depth review with the committees on April 24th. Those 2 firms were INR and PNC. Going forward, the committees and the staff will continue to abide by the 2 resolutions passed by the board. One is for the evaluation criteria for reviewing the firms, and that's Resolution 2014-17. And then Resolution 2014-18 establishes the procedures that board and staff will follow when awarding the actual contract to the firm. We expect the committees and the township manager, who is a member of the committees, to have a final recommendation to the board at the next meeting on May 16th for a recommendation. And you'll have the backup information for that firm prior to the board meeting. You'll have it in your packets. So this is simply a review. In your packet, we have the brief minutes from the pension committees that were held to discuss the proposals as well as to interview the firms, and a quick spreadsheet that the township manager had created on the 2 finalists, where he reviewed their fee structure and their performance over the last, I believe it was 3 to 5 year period. And I know that was a very brief review, but if you have any questions, we have 3 people here from the committees that should hopefully be able to answer them.
No, okay, the board members don't have any questions. Do we have any questions from audience members? Thank you, Jerry, and thank you to the pension committee. This is quite an involved process, and we appreciate the time and effort involved in getting a very comprehensive look at who the appropriate firm will be. So, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 3F. And this will be our 2014 road reconstruction bid update from our township engineer.
Thank you, Ms. Eckman.
Welcome, Tim.
Roadways. We've got an extremely large asset in community roads. The asset has been, I guess, severely damaged over the last number of years, especially with the severity of this past winter. So working with Rich and Public Works, John, and certainly Joe Chilano, we've gone out and surveyed the roads, tried to establish kind of a hierarchy of what are the most badly damaged roads, which roads need the most attention the soonest, giving some weight to the volume of traffic on them as well as just the ability for the public to travel. And we've come up with a list. Seeing that list of 4 roads we're proposing for this 2014 season, and understanding that there are a great number of roads that also need attention, we've tried to project out as best we can how best to repair and how best to deal with these road improvements. So our proposal this evening is to look at 4 roads for 2014. They would be Rittenhouse Road from Audubon to Egypt, Church Road from Circle Drive back to the Worcester Township boundary, Crawford from Egypt to Park, and that short section of Surrey in from Egypt into the end of the Surrey Lane there. That is a pretty aggressive bite of an apple. We've worked with some contractors, got some preliminary pricing, and the value of that project is somewhere just south of $700,000. The reason for the expense is that the road base is pretty well deteriorated. We don't believe that by just milling and overlaying that road we would get any kind of life out of that project, and we'd be wasting money on a pure overlay. So we're looking at a more aggressive repair. It's a cold mill recycling where the contractor comes in with a big piece of machinery. He mills up the roadway. That mill goes into a hopper. It's mixed with some Portland cement, some new asphalt. It's laid right back down, compacted. So we've got a new road base to work from. On the top of the road base, we put our new wearing surface. Lower Providence has used this process in the past with much success. Joe Chilano, who I've been relying on heavily since John and I are pretty new to the community, has really pointed us toward roads and issues that we need to keep mindful of as we look ahead. But that, I guess, would be a proposal for 2014. The financing, or where those funds come from, is a second question that Mr. Gestricht has certainly been better able to answer than John or I, and has asked that we look further into the future. Maybe Rich can discuss with you in a bit how he plans to pay for all these repairs. But at this time, we're looking at also some roads for 2015. These were the roads that fell right below these four most important for 2014, and they would include a section of Collegeville Road, Sunnyside, Woodland, and a remaining portion of Arcola. They were near the top of our list, and think it's important that we get these roads repaired as soon as possible as well. And looking at 2015 to try and budget some monies to get those roads repaired. Total value for that 2-year program is, close to $1.2 million, $1.1 million range. It's again, a big bite of the apple. But we think it important to start maintaining this infrastructure before it gets way ahead of us, and those numbers would grow quickly if we don't do something sooner rather than later to maintain the product. After that thought, Rich said, well, shoot, if we're looking at 2015, why don't we look at 2016 as well? So we've got some concept for 2016. It's awfully early. Rainstorms like yesterday could change our opinions pretty rapidly, depending on how much damage that kind of water would do to certain roadways. But at least we have a goal to shoot for, at least some milestones that we can project forward. Joe and John and I, we looked at Grange Avenue, Cold Spring, Jennifer, and Eagle Stream for possible work in 2016. So again, we're trying to lay out a plan moving forward so we have some kind of idea of how this will all fit together. I guess with that being said, I think tonight maybe we're looking for some authorization to go out to bid for these 2014 roads. Again, this first bite of the apple, again, in the order of magnitude of $700,000, but I think it would be money well spent on our road system. Any follow-up, Rich? Why does that not surprise me?
What's that? Rich Gestricht, Township Manager. Okay, let's start at slide number 7. Okay. When we did the budget this year, we put $250,000 in the budget primarily to do Rittenhouse Road. Well, after this winter, and I warned you repetitively that this was going to happen with the freeze, the thaw that we experienced. Both Crawford and Church are in real bad shape. So in order to do both Crawford and Church, that's an additional $443,000. We've only got $250,000, though, in the budget. So if we were to decide just to do the 2014 roads, would have to finance the remaining $443,000. Okay. One of the good things that's been happening to us is the passage of the transportation bill at the state level. In 2014, that meant that this year alone, we received $59,000 more than what we had budgeted in terms of liquid fuels allotment. Next year, in 2015, we're projecting we'll receive an additional, on top of that $59,000, of $61,653. 2016, we're projecting another additional amount of $76,734. And so on, $53,000 in 2017, and in 2018, $89,772. Accordingly, as Tim said, I said, one of our biggest problems is our infrastructure and the deterioration of the infrastructure. And in 2017, our PIB loan is expired. Our PIB loan is a loan that the township took out several years ago to pave about 19 miles of road. That loan has been paid out at the tune of $444,000 a year. That's attributable to the road repaving that we did several years ago. I've been trying desperately since I've been here the last 2 years to bridge that gap. I think we've got the opportunity to bridge that gap over the next 3 years. So I said to Tim, why don't we propose 2015 and 2016? Bridge that gap, get all the way out to 2017 when the $444,000 becomes available. Then we can go with a normal paving program where we allot a set sum associated with the paving if we can afford to do it in the year 2017. Okay? So he came up with, we didn't just come up with them. If you remember, Dave Schaefer had put together an extensive spreadsheet of roads with priorities, and he did that in 2012. And we've kept that spreadsheet. Well, I sent Joe Chilano out, I sent John Primus out, and I sent Tim out. And I said, take a look at those priorities that Dave had identified, give priority to connector streets that'll have a lot of traffic on them, give priority to those streets that are in the worst shape. And this is the list that they've come up with for 2015 and 2016. We're proposing, now, and this is interesting because we discussed this one at the Finance Committee the other night. We're proposing in 2015 to do the remaining section of Arcola. When we discussed that with the Finance Committee the other night, the suggestion was made that maybe we ought to wait on that one until 2016 because of the Arcola Road Bridge reconstruction, which is probably going to be bid this June, awarded in August. They'll probably start the project in September in terms of putting a shovel into the ground. Probably won't be completed until the end of 2015. We don't know whether or not they're going to be bringing heavy construction vehicles in on our side or on the Upper Providence side. And we've still got the Middle Interceptor out there, although the Middle Interceptor is down near the river. It's really not on Arcola Road, in particular this area that we're looking to pave. So I'm more concerned about the bridge, and I think it was a good suggestion. And then we proposed Collegeville from Township Line to River Road. We proposed Sunnyside. That's a remaining portion of Sunnyside that we didn't do last year. The Pennsylvania American Water Company is going to be doing most of Sunnyside this year, so this will just leave this one small portion of Sunnyside to do. Pennsylvania American Water Company is also going to be paving Pinetown later this year as part of a water line project, so we'll get the benefit of that. Then we proposed in 2016 Cold Spring, which is an internal road for development in Lower Providence. It's really not a connector, but it's in bad shape. Eagle Stream Drive. That's from Old Gennardi's all the way down to Maryland Avenue. If you recall, we did the upper portion of that the first year I was here in 2012. Grange Avenue from Visitation out to Ridge and Jennifer Lane. Now, what we did discuss was moving Eagle Stream up to 2015 and pulling Arcola down to 2016. This just runs through the PIB loan and expires in 2017, which will free up $444,000 additional. It does bridge the gap. The total cost of doing all three of these years is $1,758,000. Now, can we do it without a tax increase? Yes, I think we can. Okay? Now, we will need, if we just do the If we just do the 2014 and we finance the 443,000, we don't have a problem. We can afford that with the additional 59,000 that we got this year. I ran the amortization on that. I did it over a 10-year period. I projected out 3% over the 10-year period, and it'll work. Okay? We can finance it. 2014, 2015 together, that one, total project, 1.2 million minus the 250,000 that we've already budgeted. Yeah, that one I ran as well. When I ran that one, we can almost afford it without any help if we transferred $18,692 from the unrestricted capital reserve once. Not every year, once. Okay. 2014, 2015, 2016, total project cost $1.7 million. We can afford it if we transfer from the unrestricted capital reserve $95,007 once. Now that number will change, subject to change. If the interest rate, I think I was kind of conservative at 3%. The interest rate probably will come in at about 2.65, 2.75, somewhere in there. So that all can fluctuate. But I think we've got a golden opportunity for the first time since I've been here to bridge that gap on our infrastructure and start to get our roads under control without risking a tax increase.
Rich, in that 3-year proposal, when would that transfer be made? It would be made this year, 18,000 or 95,000?
Yeah, you need it in the very first year.
Okay.
Yeah, in all those proposals, you need it in the first year. As the revenue increases each year with the increased liquid fuels allotment that the state legislator gave us, then you wouldn't need it. So it's a one-time transfer.
Bill, can you go back one slide? And there was one number that didn't make sense. So your 2017.
You're me. I got it.
You got it. You got it. Sorry. The liquid fuels, why is it less in 2017? Is there some phenomenon going on there?
I don't know.
Oh. Those are numbers that...
Those are numbers the state gave us.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want, I can talk to the state.
No,
and
no,
see
I just was hoping that 5 should be an 8, maybe. Okay.
I just know that it is less. I don't know why that particular year they projected out less. Yeah, they gave us projections about 4 weeks ago, and I was able to plug them in.
Okay.
Rich, could you share with us what the balance in the unrestricted capital reserve is now?
It's about $1 million.
Well, Rich, I'm excited. For those of you who are frequent attendees at the meetings or watching on TV, you know that I use the bully pulpit up here to talk about roads all the time. So I'm excited at the direction, and yet at the same time, we also have to be fiscally prudent. So can you talk a little bit about borrowing power and information with regard to recent Moody's?
Oh, sure. Sure. You probably, interestingly enough, our borrowing power, according to Del Val Regional Finance Authority, will not be affected or implicated as a result of the Moody's downgrading of the municipality from a AA2 to an AA3. The reason behind the fact that it won't implicate us one way or the other is because we are still designated as a prime 1 agency, which means that we are a low risk. Now, Moody's did recently downgrade us. In fact, that occurred over, I guess it was last Friday that occurred. We are going to appeal that. I don't think that our chances on appeal are very good. The reasons are that we discussed it with Moody's today. In particular, we discussed it with their supervisor. Moody's had already decided to up their standards. They've made their standards much more difficult for municipalities. We were, in their eyes, in the previous years, outliers, and they wanted to give us extra scrutiny as a result. The reasons behind their scrutiny were the fund balances the township was carrying, in particular, all the way up to 2011. Now, since 2012 and 2013, we've had surpluses in the general fund, and in fact, this year we had a bountiful surplus of 1.3 to 1.4 million. So, you know, they took that. We did give them that information. We did make the argument that Lower Providence is in a turnaround state, but they've already committed to tightening up their standards, and there's really not a lot that we could do about it. But as I said, we did discuss this in depth with the Finance Committee the other night in public, and Lucian Calhoun, who is the head of the Delaware Valley Regional Finance Authority and our finance representative, you know, informed us that the one-step downgrade to the municipality would not affect us in terms of interest rates.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question for Tim. So what is the lifespan then of this process that you're proposing?
Very good question, Ms. Eggman. Typically, we look at, 25 years kind of lifespan to 30 on a cold mill recycling process. A lot will depend on what kind of maintenance we do going forward as well. There is some wisdom to looking at roads earlier and doing some surface treatment at a much lower cost to extend the life of the roadway. And so a lot of factors play into it, obviously drainage, truck traffic, obviously. Some of the underlying soils play a big part. But in general, we'd like to think 25 to 30 years on a recycled roadway.
Okay.
I have a question.
Hang on.
Let's say we were to knock one or two of these off the list. Could we do this without borrowing this year? I mean, I know it's a grand list, but how much would we have to not do to not have to make that one-time transfer?
This year, you'd have to knock both Church and Crawford off, or you'd have to knock off Rittenhouse. And
No, well, we're talking about all the way out to 2016. Because it was mentioned that could change rapidly, that, those weren't as definite. So if we took some of those out of the equation, would that change the one-time transfer that we'd have to make? In other words, we'd borrow less?
Oh, if you borrowed less and you took some of those out of the mix, yeah, I mean, you could probably just do that's what I said, you could do 2014, 2015, and then your transfer would be reduced to 18,692. Yeah, so you could remove roads from it.
So if we, say, took Arcola out of 15 and put it in 16 and pushed Cold Spring out to 17, if we push something off the list, can we
Sure, eliminate your 18. Well, I could redo the calculations and see whether or not you eliminate the one-time transfer.
because we're still aggressively attacking the roads, the road issue, and we're not depleting the unrestricted capital reserve as greatly.
Yeah, but what you would be doing is you would only be borrowing for the 2 years as opposed to the 3 years. So once you'd be borrowing for 2014 roads, you'd be borrowing for 2015. You'd be moving one of the 2015 roads into 2016, and you'd be deferring those roads in terms of any borrowing going forward. So you'd have to do another issuance, in 2016 in order to do those roads. So right now, I look at it and I say, if you can get an interest rate at 2.65 or 2.75, historically, those are still very, very good interest rates.
That's true.
And we don't know the annual repayment number on that over 10 years because we don't have the interest rate yet.
Oh, over 10 years, I've got some projections, yeah.
Can you talk about the
Yeah, yeah, for the entire, for the 1.7 million, minus the 250,000, the annual payment schedule would be $176,000, it's $176,838 a year over 10 years, and that assumes a 3% interest rate.
So in effect, after the PIB loan sunsets, that would cut into the monies coming from the liquid fuels.
No, it wouldn't cut into the monies coming, well, when the PIB loan ceases, and the PIB loan will, it'll stop, the last payment's 2016 associated with the roads. After that, you still pay like $40,000 on a truck loan that the municipality took out. But that'll free up $444,000 a year as opposed to impinge on the liquid fuels. You'll actually have that $444,000 a year that you can dedicate annually in addition to the liquid fuels monies that you're receiving.
444 plus each of the increases in the years, as you pointed out.
That's correct.
And they accumulate.
They
those
accumulate.
increases. Okay. What do they come to in 2017 or 18 over what we're getting now?
$341,128.
Over the 400 and
Extra.
40,000 that we'll be able to appropriate for roads. Minus, in a sense, budgeting wise, the 176,000 we'll be paying back for the loan.
So I just did the math. You'll have about $266,000 extra once the PIB loan ends,
Yes.
factoring in the annual $176,000 that you would have to pay per year on this loan for the next 3 years surfacing.
Yep.
So what would our budget look like come 2017 that we would be spending per year on road surfacing programs?
I anticipate that the budget would look like, and we're just putting together those figures. In fact, we've got a 5-year budget in terms of roads, but I anticipate it would be about $500,000 or $600,000 a year in terms of annual resurfacing. Now, we still have to do the whole analysis, what type of resurfacing are we going to do? Are we going to try to do Nova chip? Are we going to try to do different types of resurfacing in order to extend the life of the roads? Or will we still be faced with, doing heavy base repair, that type of thing? So that's still the engineering that has to be done.
So if we go this way, just so that I understand, we'd be having $500,000 or $600,000 spending per year on actually resurfacing roads in that year, as opposed to what we're doing now as spending $450,000 paying off roads we resurfaced in the past.
Correct. Yeah, and that's the kind of program that I am used to doing, where the municipality puts aside anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 a year just to do resurfacing on an annual basis. That's the kind of program that you really should be doing. I mean, that's the kind of program that keeps your roads in good shape on an annual basis. And it doesn't if you award a large contract, part of the problem with awarding a very, very large contract is you need the cooperation and the inspection of your public works crew. They need to identify any potential base repair, that type of thing. If you have too large of a contract and you pay too much at once, you tend to not get the kind of performance and intensity that you do whenever you do an annual road resurfacing program from your public works department, because they get spread too thin.
So budget-wise, down the road, 2017, budget-wise, we got the 440 and the 300 and some in added liquid fuels, so you're looking at 770,000, right? Budgetary, minus the 176 we're still going to be paying on the loan. So that's going to leave you a budget that'll cover the road resurfacing going forward.
Hopefully. We haven't done all the figures yet beyond the 3-year. We wanted to get you out to that we wanted to bridge that 3-year gap. That's been one of the most difficult things that we've been trying to do over the last 2 years. I think that we've done that. We've already started to put together, like I said, a 5-year road program. Now we're going to have to start to drill down on that, as in terms of what kind of resurfacing we're going to do, what we think it's going to cost. But yes, that's the idea. That is what I would like to accomplish.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question for Tim. I'm gonna make you work. So, I'm sure you might not know this answer, but does it help our bundling? If we bundle the 3 years together and bid them all in this year, you're telling us it's about $20 a square yard. But if we waited and spaced them out in a year, I mean, there's an unknown there of how much that road repair will be in 2017 or 16, right?
Correct. And we actually discussed that amongst ourselves as to how best to bid the project. I've made the recommendation, we only bid 2014 road work this year. Secure the funds for the future projects, but only bid the work for this year. Only because if I'm a contractor and I've got to project out my potential costs for 3 years going forward, I'm going to charge the municipality a premium to hold those prices for that period of time. And secondly, we're not certain we know exactly what we want to do in 2015. We've got a great idea, we've got a plan to go from, but there might be other work that's needed. There might be some additional drainage work, or there might be something else we need to add or subtract from the contract. And I think we need to be a little more agile moving forward. But my recommendation was to bid 2014 this year, but make sure we know where the funds are coming from for the next couple of years out.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no question the only roads that we should bid are the 2014 roads. Yeah, it's too difficult to do the 2015 and 2016 in the bid this year. I doubt that we'd have a whole lot of a response or something like that.
And that's not really what I was thinking. I was thinking is if you're taking the bond out for the full 3 years worth of work, why aren't you doing the work now, this year? You're just going to have the money sit around. But if you're not ready to look at what actually needs to be done.
Answered your question. No, now that with the clarification there, Ms. Eggman, yeah, I think again, as Rich pointed out, the concern being is that we're not a large enough entity to do that much volume of work in under our jurisdiction. And
Okay.
it just gets, we all get strung too thin, and the contractor gets strung too thin. With that kind of volume of work, he would almost have dedicated his whole crew for the whole summer to Lower Providence Township. He's got other municipalities he's going to want to serve as well, and I'm not sure that he'd be anxious to take on that much work in one summer construction season.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. That helps. Well, I guess technically, you were asking for authorization to bid the 2014 work. So technically, we should probably put a motion and if we want to entertain a motion in a second, and then we could go to questions to the audience, okay? If we're ready to do that.
Just so I'm clear, are we asking for a motion to bid out the project or a motion to approve the funding for the project?
Actually, Tim's already been authorized to bid out the 2014 road work, but that was only when we had Rittenhouse in mind. So tonight, we're looking for both. To bid out the 2014 road work, which would include the addition of Crawford and Church, which is more than what you originally approved. Then we're looking for the
approval of the financing, whether it's 1-year financing, whether it's the 2-year program financing, or whether it's the 3-year program financing.
Separate motions?
Separate motions.
Okay, all right, well, we'll start with the simple one then.
I'd like to make a motion, we authorize Tim to bid the 1-year program, 2014, including the 3 roads, Rittenhouse, Church, and Crawford.
Okay, thank you, Don. All right, so we have a motion.
I think we're going to add Surrey into that list too, Rich, if that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah,
The
we
fourth
did
road.
add, I forgot about Surrey.
And Surrey, sorry.
Yeah.
I amend that to include Surrey.
And to answer the question that was raised the other night, yes, I was correct. Surrey is a township road.
Oh, yes. I think that's the 1971 road.
The what?
68.
68? Okay. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor that was amended to add Surrey, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Board members, any questions? All right, now we could open it up to the public. Sorry. Thank you for your patience.
As to that Tom where I mentioned facing library just some questions. I'm sure the board's aware that Cooper Road is going to open up westbound very short. This was good for you, but I don't know. The red light's on. Thanks, Bill. He shut it off? You shut it off, Rich?
Yes. I conserved the battery so that you could speak now.
Thank you. The board's aware of what's happening on Trooper Road, where Trooper Road's going to open up westbound onto 422, correct?
Sure.
All right. Is the board aware of what Autobahn Shopping Center Phase 5 is coming into, where the roads are going to open up into the industrial park? Is everybody aware of that?
Well, we're aware of a proposal.
Okay, it's a proposal. Okay. Now, my question is this. You're going to spend $444,000 for Rittenhouse Road, correct?
That's
what I think
on
I
the
saw.
list.
That's what I saw up there. All right, you have 3 houses facing Rittenhouse Road at the north end. You have 3 houses from Lantern Lane to Audubon Road. You have one business, one industrial business facing Rittenhouse Road. Why is it so important to do Rittenhouse Road? So, you know, that's all you're pushing for is Rittenhouse Road, Rittenhouse Road. I don't see that's being heavily used. Now, when you talk about Crawford, I mean, there's guys putting signs up there for shock absorbers. You know, come to Monroe and get my shock fix. I mean, it's a hazard. I can see Crawford. I can see Church. But why are you pushing Rittenhouse where not too many people are using Rittenhouse, where Crawford, where since the bridge closed, we're chasing everybody down onto Crawford Road, Egypt Road to Crawford. I mean, you're talking about saving money. Why can't you delay Rittenhouse Road until you find out what the infrastructure is going to be on Audubon Shopping Center 5 phase, where they're going to have Adams Avenue open up all the way from Audubon Road to the boulevard? I mean, I'm sure you guys go to these meetings. I go, and Mike Armrow sits there. He's on a planning commission. He sits the same ones I do. I mean, it just doesn't make sense that you're throwing money away. Why can't you use the money where you can use it right now, push Rittenhouse aside until you know what's going to happen with the other businesses?
Well, I think our,
That's why I was trying to hold you,
yeah.
before you start bidding
well,
on
we
things.
we have to follow the procedure.
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
An engineer can probably explain maybe even the number of cars that use Rittenhouse. I think you'll find that it's heavily traveled, not just for people that live there, but it's, there again is another one of our cut-through roads that is in terrible condition.
But I've hit one pothole on Rittenhouse Road.
Oh, you're good.
Huh?
Yeah, you are good.
That's all I hit, one. That's coming off Egypt Road, Don. Coming off Egypt Road, going down to the first cutoff onto the industrial park. But between there and down to Lantern Lane, there's nothing there. That's golf course on one side and Nothing on the other side.
What
I don't
did
know,
you
I'm just
find?
asking
that
if it's practical to do it right
That's
away.
a very good question. What are the conditions that you found out there?
Yeah, Tom, we did find, as we went out and surveyed the roadways, we did find a very deteriorated base. You know, it is in bad need of repair. We also, you know, again, I'm relying on Joe Chelano a great deal as far as his experience in the use of the roadways. But when I was there, there was a lot of traffic on the road. In the morning and the evening, it gets a lot of cut-through traffic is what we could see. And it's been on the radar for the community for a while as a real key candidate to fix and repair. And I guess my opinion is I saw what was happening down there, I understood why the township was concerned about Rittenhouse.
All right, Tim, let me ask you a typical question then. If they open up, if Audubon Shopping Center 5 opens Adams Avenue from Audubon Road to the boulevard, where do you think people's going to be traveling? You think they're going to come up Rittenhouse Road and try to kill themselves getting out onto Egypt Road when they can go straight ahead and hit a light up there?
Mr. Brewer, you're hitting on a very difficult question for sure. And it's one the Planning Commission and our traffic engineers we're struggling with as to what does Audubon Square 5 do? What do they do with the interconnection between their proposed hotel, the restaurants, and the industrial park? How does that connection look? Can we get that connection to work today, or is that going to be something that's going to be impossible until future phases of Audubon Square come to fruition? And I don't know that I have an answer for you today. I don't know what we're going to conclude and what the traffic engineer is going to direct us toward.
Oh, I don't know. I've lived in Lower Providence Township for 45 years now, and you know, I don't use Rittenhouse Road that much other than that one pothole, Tony. But thank you, Madam Chairperson. Thank you, Board, for listening to me. And I don't know. I just think it's why can't it be put on hold and do the major roads that really need it first? And I think you're going to be cutting down. If you're putting $444,000 in the Rittenhouse Road.
We're not.
No, that's not
We're
correct.
not. That's incorrect.
That's a collective figure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
283.
Master.
I let you get away with it once, not twice.
Well, all right. I heard you say 444,000.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, that's for the whole. That's all of 2014 after you subtract.
All right,
that.
so 250,000. What would Crawford cost to do?
Crawford's going to cost 100,400.
There you
Church
go. There's half the price of Rittenhouse Road. What about?
Church 261,920.
There you go. There's two roads you can do right away, and you're not putting yourself in the hole. Thank you.
Well, actually, if you just did the 2014, you know, you can do that within the allotment that you've got now from liquid fuels, and you can finance it. That doesn't require any transfer whatsoever from the unrestricted capital.
You know, horoscope told me to be nice tonight.
So is the main reason that we're financing the 2 years out is to take advantage of the interest rate now? Because
Sure.
we don't need the money now.
Well, there's two things that happen. One, there's issuance costs whenever you do it, and if you're going to do it just 1 year and then turn around and do it next year, there's issuance costs that are
Yeah.
associated with. Yeah, and the other thing is interest rates are historically low.
Now.
I mean, right now.
But we're borrowing money for projects the following year and the following year.
Yep.
Okay, now,
Yep.
because the rates are low.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, last year we got one loan for 1.62.
Excellent work, I
Yeah.
know. I know.
Yeah, now we're looking at maybe 2.65, 2.75. Yeah, so it's, you know, all indications, unless the world economy suddenly goes into a deflationary spiral, or that interest rates are only going to go up.
And I guess theoretically, if we're holding on to that money for 2 years, we can be putting it in a CD or something and gaining interest on it.
Yes, there are certain arbitrage requirements and that type of things, but yeah, as long as you don't exceed those requirements, you're okay.
Okay, any other questions from the audience? Okay. Hearing none, we'll call for the vote on this first motion to approve the 2014 road construction bids.
I would make that motion.
No, we have a motion, sorry, there was so much discussion, sorry about that. All right, so we're calling for the vote on this one. All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, then with that, we'll move on to the second one. Rich would like to have approval for the financing for the 2014 road construction bids, which would include Crawford, Church, Rittenhouse, and Surrey. Did I miss any?
Yeah, you're either approving the financing for 2014, or you're approving the financing for 2014 and 15, or you're approving the financing for 2014, 15, and 16. Basically, all you're doing is authorizing me to go out and get quotes. You're not really approving the financing tonight.
You don't know what the bids are yet.
Yeah, I don't know what the bids are.
Right, thank you.
You're going to have another shot at this when it comes back.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, we authorize Rich to research the financing options for all 3 years.
For all 3 years. Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have any questions on that? Questions on that motion? Okay, all those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Okay. Rich, when do you think you'll have that? We could bring this discussion back up again.
The sooner the better. I'm going to start working on it tomorrow. I'll see if I can get it to you by the next meeting. If not, I'll get it to you by the meeting after that.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be tight to get it to you by the next meeting.
I assume, in your usual thoroughness, you'll have it broken out for the 3 different proposals?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we're almost there. Item 4, announcements. There will be a Park and Recreation meeting on May 13th at 7 p.m. I would encourage all residents to check out the programs that the Park and Rec's department has put out for the summer. They've been very busy, and lots of events are going to be planned. One in particular, maybe Patrick will say this. I want to keep reminding people about our July 4th celebration, so if you could talk about that.
Well, sure. It's not actually a July 4th celebration. It's a July 3rd celebration this year. We'll be having our fireworks on, I believe it's Thursday night, July 3rd, correct? It's a Thursday night. It's the night before July 4th. We'll have the fireworks here behind the Township building and the music in the park. So I'll encourage everybody to go ahead and calendar it on their different, iPods, iPhones, calendars at work to come out the night before, and then that way you're set to roll right into your holiday weekend. Also, with respect to Parks and Rec, as we're talking about them, is that the Parks and Rec department, through the hard work of Carl Lukens, has gone ahead and developed a program with collaboration from Audubon Land Development, who owns or operates the golf course down in Shenandoah, to award 50 free rounds of golf to residents of Lower Providence Township. If you're interested in winning one of the free rounds of golf, please go to the Parks and Rec website and register. There's no cost to register. Registration is open for another 2 weeks. It'll close on May 15th, and then the winners will be drawn randomly from all those who have already registered. So far, we're up to about 100 registrants. If you don't have access to the internet, you can go ahead and call the Parks and Rec department, and they will register you via the old-fashioned phone system.
Excellent. Thank you, Patrick, and Carl and his staff for their efforts in putting that program together. I think it should be very interesting to see how it turns out in this first go-round. Okay, next up, announcements. We have a Sewer Authority meeting on May 14th at 7 p.m. Jason, anything happening with the Sewer Authority?
I'm speaking with the Sewer Authority this morning. Very happy to report that despite the deluge of the last several days, The pumping stations held up well. There was only some minor overflow from several of the stations. That's a tremendous decrease over some of the discharge that has happened in the past, and that's due to the efforts of the sewer authority to decrease the infiltration into the sewers, and it's something I've mentioned at a couple of the last meetings. So we see the fruits of that during a time like this when the sewers are really heavily inundated with rainwater. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, and thanks to the residents for being receptive to the work of the sewer authority and trying to reduce that water that's going into our systems. We don't want our sump pumps going down the drain and other things that should not be connected to the sewer system. So appreciate that. It certainly does make a difference. The library board will trustees are having their meeting on May 19th at 7 p.m. Any events happening at the library, Don?
No, I don't have any events to report. I just attended the meeting last week that they had for this past month, and they have hired new staff. They kind of got people in place, using their new found funds to update their technology, and now that they've taken care of the immediate problems that were threatening their service to the community, now they're looking at putting together a presentation for us towards the end of the year of the kind of exciting new things we can expect from them.
Okay, excellent. Look forward to that. All right, item 5, comments and other business. Board members, kind of went through.
I can report on the Planning Commission meeting, which was held on April 23rd. I attended. On the agenda was a proposal from Kimco, which is the company that owns the Kmart shopping center. Kimco was looking for a couple different things. They were looking for a new ordinance that would allow them to store RVs, boats, and vehicles outside of the self-storage unit there at the shopping center. They were also looking in the change of the ordinance to allow for allocation of only 10 parking spots to the self-storage unit. And third, they were looking in the ordinance that the shopping center be financially subdivided, basically make a condominium out of the shopping center so that any area or building that was greater than 40,000 square feet could have boundaries drawn around it within the shopping center and could be owned by different companies. The proposal is before the Planning Commission, and they're going to be discussing, and I think Kimco is going to be coming back at a future date. So
Okay, so there was no vote taken?
there was no vote taken.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for those updates. I think that's very helpful so that our residents know what's happening in the other boards and committees throughout the township.
And I see that Mr. Comro, on the Planning Commission, is here. I don't know if I properly summarized it, if there's anything else that you wish to add.
You did an excellent job, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, we'll open it up to the, oh, you had something?
I don't know. Just figured.
You have something, Haley?
No.
No? A lot of things happening at the high school, nothing to report? No? Okay. Yeah, the prom, post-prom happened. And how was the blood drive? How did that
It was a
go?
very great turnout. They actually had to turn people away because we had so many people come.
Excellent. Wonderful. Good work. Must have been from your announcement. Okay, so now we'll go to courtesy of the floor. The residents have anything? Yes, please come forward. Yes, please. And if you just give your name and address so that we could have it for the minutes.
My name's Greg Smith. My address is 316 Collegeville Road, Collegeville, PA. Several years back, the Lower Providence banned residential burning. Other townships around here didn't. I know Skippack and I think Worcester will give you burning permits. Now, that would make life a lot easier for the residents. Collegeville and Trapp established a central location where residents can take the brush and so forth and drop it off. The process of going door to door with your chipper with stuff piled up all over the township just isn't very efficient or effective. And in some places, the brush is piled up where it limits the line of sight and causes a slight safety problem. Can you either establish a central locale where people could take brush to dump, or reinstate the burning permits like other townships have. And Skip Pack does a real nice job with the controls you need to have in place and so forth. But the program you got now isn't very efficient or effective. And I know they're way behind because people put out all the brush they had accumulated during the burning ban. It's the stuff that's out there to be shredded isn't just from the storms. It's accumulated for some time. So, you know, that solution doesn't seem very efficient or effective. Because is there any other way you can do it? Give us a place to take it and dump it, or give us burning permits. It would save a lot of money, I think, for the township. I know they're weeks behind in this shredding program because so much extra stuff was put out they weren't anticipating. So, you know, I don't think you solved the problem yet.
Well, I guess I could answer that, and everybody else wants to chime in. But so Mr. Smith, the township has, that's just a one-time program, and that was really put into place. We used it a few years ago after one of the bad storms, so that people don't leave, you know, throughout their properties, branches and things like that. It's a way for them to get rid of the larger pieces, rather than use the weekly service that our trash hauler offers on Wednesdays, where you can put out branches 3 feet in length, you know, in a can, or leaves, or whatever it is, any yard debris. A few years ago, we did have a new ordinance regulating the burning in the township, because the board at the time, I think I could say, we felt that we are in a denser community than places like Skippack, and it causes a lot of conflicts where neighbors are burning. It's oftentimes on beautiful days where people have their windows open, and it causes a lot of disgruntled neighbors. So that was one of the reasons that we took that under consideration. Plus, there's a safety hazard as well. People leaving unattended burn barrels or burn piles. And
the Skipback guidelines address all those issues, and you know, a central location. You know, you say you can put it out Wednesday, and I did put it out Wednesday. They picked it up today after the rain, and that's okay. But there's a limit to what you can put out. You know, if you had a central location, I could take and throw it in the back of my car and take it and dump it off, and your works department people could shred it in one place instead of going door to door. That would be much more efficient, I would think.
well, I don't think they'd be able to do, they don't have the capability to do anything larger than the 4 inches in our chippers. But I think a central dumping location for larger things like stumps and roots and, you know, trunks that are larger than 4 inches, we could think about it, see if there is a place.
What are we supposed to do with the stuff? You know, 6-inch branch isn't that big. It broke off my pine trees. You know, it's not good firewood. It's not good for anything. What do I do with it?
Yeah, well, it's something that you'd probably have to hire somebody to come and take it away, rather than, you know, to burn it. So, but it's something we absolutely look into if that's how you could dispose of larger items.
Yeah, or a large volume. You know, I put out 6 bags for pickup yesterday, and you know how many bags? I still have 60 bags I could fill up. You know, it's a real burden on the people of the township that have large yards, and especially with the winter like we had. You know, I have brush piled up everywhere. It's unsightly. It's probably not very safe. And, you know, by the township ordinance, I can burn in an approved fireplace, but I can't burn in a 55-gallon drum. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You know.
Well, we'll definitely take it under consideration. I mean, we do have some new board members. We could always look into revising the ordinance, but that's what we have in place right now.
A central location would be one that would not upset anybody, and I think it would be more efficient and effective for your township people to be shredding in one place instead of going door to door.
Just on the burning issue, I think DEP has some Southeast Pennsylvania burning bans in certain parts of Southeast Pennsylvania. I know some municipalities have burning ordinances and they give out permits, but I think DEP has a say. If you were going to institute that again, I think they have some say in.
The state proposal allowed the townships to let the residents continue to burn, only the residents.
What state?
The state proposal that Lower Providence banned burning. There was a choice on the thing the state sent out.
Okay.
Allow residents to continue burning or not allow residents.
How long ago was that, though?
About 3 years ago,
Okay,
whenever the township banned burning.
okay.
And, I know the other townships didn't necessarily ban it, but you weren't forced into it by the state.
Okay, I mean, I might be incorrect, but I think DEP.
I researched it, that's the only reason I know
I
it.
think DEP has a little more, I didn't realize that was optional.
Well,
Southeast
Skippack
Pennsylvania.
is 600 feet down the road from me. I can see the guy burning his brush, and
Right.
I'm stuck with all mine.
But I think that's part of the, township would have to look into that to see
Mhm.
whether we're gonna
Well,
do something contrary to
The stuff piled up all over the township right now, waiting for this, the road crews to come, and I'm sure they're behind because the volume is much more than they expected. People didn't put out just what came down in the storm, they put out the backlog they had from not burning for years. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. John, did you want to say something?
No, we can look into that. We can look in that option. I'll talk to the manager and see if we can come up with a location for the big stuff.
Okay.
But we're like 3.5 weeks behind.
Mm-hmm.
We're out there with 2 chippers every day. Obviously, today and tomorrow, our hands are tied because of the storm damage. But Monday, we'll resume again.
Excellent.
John, is there any chance that we could get a list of the roads that have not yet been chipped?
Sure.
And then that way we can put that on our website or some other way, advertise that to the residents so they know whether or not their road has been cleared, because people might be putting stuff back out on certain roads not knowing that we've already been through it once. So if there's a way that we could just get a list of...
Sure, I'll come up with a list and email to the manager, and you can distribute it to the board.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Smith, to speak to your comment about it's expensive, that was one of the things that we talked about before we, went ahead with it again for this round. And it's technically not really costing the township anything. It is our chipper. We are borrowing chippers from East Norton and West Norton. They've been very helpful. And they're our public works crew that are full-time employees, and we're reallocating them to this assignment.
We're filling potholes tomorrow.
Okay. Do we have any other comments? Yes, Mr. Bory.
John, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Madam Chairperson, to follow up Mr. Smith, Upper Providence has a beautiful facility over there. Maybe John can take a ride over there and take a look. Any resident in Upper Providence can take their twigs over. They got a nice compound there. They chip it there. You get the mulch there. You can get anything you want. They have topsoil there and everything, and it's free. But they only dump twice a week.
You said what, residents can only take it twice a week?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Your residence has to take it to that particular facility, and they take care of it from there on. But you have to be a resident. The only reason why I know that, my son moved to Upper Providence.
You're a resident college too, because I went there and they threw me out.
But I'd like to follow up also and give some kudos about the road crew. They've done an outstanding job, and I've seen places where you have landscapers putting stuff out in their front lawn so that our road crew can take the work up. And I've seen places that don't even have a tree on their property, and they have trees sitting on their front lawn. So, it's nice to say nothing's being done, but I think that our road crew is doing a damn good job, excuse the French, but they're also doing what they have to do. And I'd like to follow up with I think you should let the people know in Lower Providence Township that we have Mount Vesuvius on Park Avenue. That's where all the mulch is going. And I think people should know in this township if they need mulch, there's a lot of mulch over there.
Oh, the wood chip pile.
Yes, ma'am.
On Park Avenue.
Yes.
Yes, that is.
It's getting higher and higher and higher, and I'm sure this is the time of the year they're going to Depot and Lowe's and buying wood chips, and it's free right there.
Yep, absolutely. Help yourself, Mr. Boyer, all you want.
And I'd like to give you some kudos, too. I received 2 books this week. One was on the budget, and one was on the new information booklet that Patrick was talking about and Jason was talking about, all the information that's in the book, welcoming our two new people, John and Michael, to the township, and it was quite interesting. And I'd like to also say, you know, is the board going to do anything about Jeannie?
That she's moved on.
Yes, you know, she spent 13 years with us, and, you know, she did a real good job with the board. She did a real good job with the planning commission, an outstanding job with the zoning board,
Okay.
and also the park and rec. You know, if nothing else, maybe just a nice little pat on the back or a letter saying, well done.
Yes, I think that's a very nice suggestion. I was sort of disappointed. I mean, we're happy to have Deb, but I wanted Jeannie for one last meeting. But she was already, you know, in a full-time position, so we were
Well,
lucky to have her as long as we
We
did.
welcomed Debbie on Thursday on camera, so, and also Michael, so we got the people to
And
see who they were.
and she came back?
Yes.
All right.
And the last but not least is, you know, the chief made a comment about the outstanding police department that he has. And I'd just like to make one statement, you know, it starts at the top. And if you got good people at the top, you damn good have a good people at the bottom. But thank you.
Okay. Any other residents have comments? All right, hearing none. We are actually going to adjourn this meeting, but we're going to go back into executive session because we have other things we didn't get a chance to talk about. But yes.
One other thing. As a senior, I was awoken this morning at 5 minutes of 6.
We came this close.
Yeah.
5 minutes of 6.
I'll take it. I know.
No, it was well done because of all the places being closed.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to go to work. But, you know, I know a lot of seniors rolled out of bed saying, my God, what happened here?
And there was a lot of thoughtful conversation last night about that in determining when to send that out and not to send it out last night because it was too late. But the reality is we have the system. It's an opt-in system, so you don't have to get the phone call. But you opt in because you want information that will keep you safe in the township. And we had information that we thought was important to share with everyone. So I apologize to anyone that we woke up who wasn't intending to wake up at 6 o'clock, but hopefully those who were going out on the roads appreciated knowing what was open and closed.
So that's the reason why you had Charlie do it instead of you, right?
And Mr. Bohr, I can add that that was a specific point of conversation that was had last night about whether or not 6 o'clock was too early or 6:30 or 7 o'clock. And it was discussed for a long time last night, and it was decided that because a lot of people are out on the roads already or have to plan that since basically every access point in and out of the township that went around water was closed this morning, that we had better give people a good heads up on it. Yeah.
Okay, so with that, I will call for the adjournment. You have a motion for that?
Motion to adjourn into executive session.
Okay, excellent. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, send by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried.
And next time
Thank
we'll
you.
have the air conditioning on here at the meeting.
But